us more about the government collapse in Germany. How did we get here?
I mean, so it's the political instability that follows a series of economic, disappointing news. And you have here definitely a different perception between Robert Habeck, the Green Party leader, and the finance minister from the Liberal Party. So two of the parties, of the three parties forming the coalition of Chancellor Scholz, that actually disagreed on the next step. Robert Habeck is focusing for more investment and therefore the lifting of the ceiling, the constitutional ceiling on public deficit, which is currently at 0.35%. And that's a no for the Liberal Party leader that actually advocates against the raising of any kind of debts in the near future. So the position here of politically in the coalition were antagonistic, and that has led obviously to the falling down of the coalition in power.
So what does the breakdown of the feuding Berlin alliance mean for Germany and the EU as a whole, do you think?
So, I mean, Germany has always been a key power in terms of the development of the economic union. At the same time, however, you have, obviously a transfer of a series of economic, strategies at the Brussels level. This is actually confirmed by the adoption of a pan-European plan this week, also in terms of, investment in economy. But the current situation of the German economy is, unfortunately, quite worrisome. There's the expectation for economic growth at 0.8%. That is to be compared, for example, to the US at 2.8%, and also, for example, Spain also at 2.9%. So, economies in Europe are faring fairly better than Germany. And Germany is facing a series of worries linked to the elections of Donald Trump in the US and potentially rise of protectionism on exports out of Germany, as we've seen during the Merkel administrations and the first administration of Donald Trump, and somehow slowing down or further economic competition from China in terms of their current exports to China. As a result, the German economy is facing structural concerns and a need for further investment, probably in its transition towards a more numeric or digital or modern IT technology. That the kind of sectors that it has flourished until now were actually limiting integration of new technologies, and it has to be strongly reinforced and maybe encouraged by state investment. But that's the situation where you have to decide what you do in terms of financial policies in Germany, and there was a central disagreement between two of the main parties of the coalition led by Olaf Scholz. And therefore, you'll see a vote of confidence followed by likely elections either in March or in September in 2025.
Wednesday was a rather seismic shift in politics for the West, wasn't it? Donald Trump was elected to be the next US president. On the other side of the world, Germany's coalition of social democrats and liberals and Greens collapsed. Are echoes of what drove Trump's comeback driving European politics?
Right now, there's a series of different analyses of what will be the impact of the Trump election on the European Union. There's diverging perception, but the common view is that definitely there should be an intensification of the integration of the European Union with the capacity to have more of an independent voice. I mean, whether it can economically is a big question, but definitely in terms of additional investment in defense sector, which has been already, started over the last few years, a series of different agreements at Brussels level, if they can move forward and trying to, rely more on different issues, especially on the trade sector. Because obviously the questions on the rise of economic barriers and protectionism and tariffs towards the US, as we've seen actually constantly also throughout the Biden administration, with the IRA, for example, Inflation Reduction Act, which is some form of strengthening of the American economy at the expense of potential imports from the European Union. You have a series of different policies that have been antagonistic to the European Union, and as a result, the European Union needs to find some new source of growth, potentially new partners, whether it's India, whether it's China, whether it's emerging markets, because it will have to face more competitive situations with economies such as North America under the Trump administration. And that will strongly impact Germany relatively more than its neighbours in the European Union.
So will a new Conservative-led coalition in Germany be willing or able to wriggle out of the current economic downturn?
So what we're seeing now in terms of early polls for the future elections, indeed would be a return of the CDU with around 30% in the first round, and potentiality, the capacity of building a coalition, depending whether it actually would unite with the AfD, which would be obviously an earthquake politically if we were to go towards the far right parties. But definitely the liberal parties might be able, if they rise above the 5% that they have currently in the polls, to form some kind of a coalition, CDU, CSU, and liberal parties. If it were the case, the policy has always been much more pro-business and low taxation. they were much more supportive that constitutional rule in terms of ceilings for debt. So you will see probably a much more monetarian offer economics in econometrics approach to the development of the industrial sector in Germany, and probably much less investment and potentially support to a model which is, and probably one of the structural issues of Germany is definitely the demographics, with the aging of the population and low level of immigration. Actually, the decision from Angela Merkel to welcome Syrians and to actually encourage pro-immigration policies was a boost for the German economy, at least in terms of the sustaining of its model of welfare state, because you need to be able to pay for those high level of pensions. If not, you will need to have a strong reforms of the pension system in Germany, which will be probably led after 2025 by the CDU-led coalition in Berlin.
All right, Remi Piet, really appreciate your time.
My pleasure, Sally.